Hello everyone, today I'm going to be reacting to Yves Tumor's new album, Praise the Lord Who Chews, but which does not consume, or simply Hot Between Worlds. Yes, okay, I got it right. But let's go over the tracks that I'm predicting will be good. Alright, so God is a Circle, just because I wonder what they're going to talk about. Also, the second one, Heaven Surrounds Us Like a Hood, because I'm also wondering what they mean. And honestly, I can say that for all of them. I won't go through and explain all of them, but yeah, just wondering what Yves means by all of that. But I don't really know a lot about Yves Tumor. I've seen them around, I've seen them on Joji's Nectar, but I've never heard a work by them individually. So this should be interesting. I don't know what to expect, but I remember clicking on a music video. I didn't hear any of it, but I remember reading the comments and people were really into it, and they're like, oh my gosh, Yves never disappoints. So that's also a reason why I chose to review them, because I was like, this should be really good then, if they have so much praise and no negativity on their page. But let's dive into it. 12 songs, 37 minutes, starting with track number 1, God is a Circle. Breathing sounds and rock. What does that sound? This is so chaotic, but I like it. Silence is what they need. It's kind of toxic, but it's normal. Love on the brain. Wow. So that was pretty chaotic. There were a lot of elements of the production, but it was enjoyable. It had a lot of interesting experimental sounds, I'll say, and it was kind of hard for me to understand what Yves was talking about, and I don't know how the lyrics of it pertain to the title, but maybe that's all part of this experimental type of music that I'm not too used to, but definitely interesting, not boring at all. But what I wanted to say about the title of the album itself, I think it's speaking to a Lord who is more gentle and not as violent or gluttonous in its regard for humanity, because chewing versus consuming something, taking your time versus not leaving a single second in your consumption. So it's essentially like they're saying that they want to praise the Lord who is more merciful, I guess, and who's more of like a moral gray instead of a Lord that is black and white and judges harshly, I guess, to an extent. But I'll jump off my soapbox and move to track number 2, Lovely Sewer. The Catalina wine mixer. So what? Oh, so fly. Who's this woman? There's no feature. Sounds like a door creak. I really like their voice. Sounds good here. Well, they don't spend any time. Last to arrive, first to leave. Oh, this piano. Okay, so for this song, I know what's going on. It's describing a partner who is like very like problematic, I'll say, just because they want to like start problems in front of other people, and they're also very not considerate of what they're doing to Eve. Like they just do the bare minimum essentially with how they spend their time. And they also it also makes me think about, like they say specifically in the song, and you cannot start a war just for the feeling. And I think that is like a metaphor for love. Like they can't like make them feel something and then like play with their heart essentially is what I mean. But yeah, let's move on to track number 3, Meteora Blues. A lot of rock vibes for this album. I dig the production of this. Oh. So he's mourning, they are mourning this person. Okay, so that was track number 3, Meteora Blues. And I really dug the production of that, and specifically the guitar, and the tone change was really nice. That kick of like upbeatedness that came through, and it was like upbeat, but at the same time it was pretty sad lyrically in that they're mourning someone and like thinking about that person and dreaming about them. But maybe it's not, but maybe they're thinking about it in a way that's like it's okay that they're dreaming of them and it's not in like a negative connotation. But let's move on to track number 4. It's an interlude. It's like a choir. Okay, so that was the interlude, and it definitely has those religious undertones to it with the church choir essentially. And it sounds like sort of like it's like beckoning or like summoning something, like yeah, like a prayer essentially, which fits really well with this album. But I also want to take the time here just to mention that the promotional photos for this album, they make it like he looks like a JoJo character, honestly. Like that's what I was telling my friends when I saw it promoted on Spotify. And he was really like competing with Lana Del Rey for like the longest titles ever with that album title. But moving on, track number 5, Parody. Like the drums. Ooh. They always have that like harsh guitar. I really like it. I wonder what this is referring to. Like, is this all just somebody acting, or is it, or was Eve actually with an artist? Because it sounds like this person is pretending to be someone else. I love the energy. Holy crap, it's like a demonic voice. Oh, it's just like very distorted. But did they actually tell you that? So this track was essentially about somebody who feels important, but they really aren't, and Eve is like, you're like a parody of a pop star. I think that's like a good summary of what Eve feels about this person, and it kind of like exposes them and like their self importance, their sense of that, and yeah. Let's move on. Track number 6. Heaven surrounds us like a hood. This is one I wrote down. Was that a gunshot? How does he do that without a head? They fused together. They really love doing that, like heavy drum and guitar out of nowhere. Poochie. Okay, that was Heaven Surrounds Us Like a Hood, and it reminded me of, like Eve says in the song, that the world feels so ugly when life makes a fool of us. And then later on, they talk about a boy and a girl specifically, and how they see their parental figures in people that like emulate who their parents, or like the vision that they have of who their parents would be, and they kind of like attach to that person, which is really deep but also really sad. And it has like the very common one where like children who are like orphans or like have lost a parent, people will be like, oh my god, you look just like that dead parent, and the kid is like, mm-hmm. Like Harry Potter is the best example. You have your mother's eyes. Okay, track number 7, Operator. The song sounds really sad now. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Okay, but that was Operator, and to me that sounded very sad. Like, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but it sounds like the operator is saying eyes red, like they're identifying. Like, I'm thinking of this through like the perspective of like maybe like a 911 operator, and they're like telling, or maybe they're just like repeating back from like an officer who's telling them, but like they're like recording that the information is that this person's eyes are red and that like they're a suspect. And I think it might be like referring to like somebody, like, definitely it's referring to like somebody being high, their eyes being red, but like them also being arrested for it. And it sounds almost like Eve is in the perspective of the person getting arrested, and like they're pleading with the operator and the police officer, I guess. Yeah, that's what I got from it. But let's move on to track number 8, In Spite of War. These productions are keeping me on my toes. This goes back to the idea where they were talking about how, like, that person hurts them, but they'll still be with them, even so. And there's a distinction in that last line, because it was also at the beginning, everybody told me you're a creep. It was different from how it was originally said, because it's almost like Eve was saying that, like, just that it was like an accusation from other people, and just like that people were talking shit, but it's almost like Eve believes it now and is saying it more aggressively, because there's like an inflection on the word creep, like they're using it as an insult. But yeah, it really continues on that idea of like continuing on with a person even though you know it's bad for you. But with that ending line, it kind of brings that self-awareness and knowing that you deserve better. Okay, track number 9, Echolalia. Grande. God is a circle. I love voice recordings and songs. They're so cool. Like having like a random soundbite or voicemail is just so cool. And ones that are actually like conducive to the song and not just like you being spiteful to your ex or something. Ooh, the synth. Okay, that was Echolalia, and it was also very like romanticizing that person who is not good for Eve, and like they look pretty and beautiful, but they are also somebody that makes Eve uncomfortable. But they can't help but love that person. And they even ask in the song, the way I'm thinking, is this unnatural? And I think it's natural. It's normal to love someone even though you don't like them. That line kind of didn't make sense to me before when somebody said it to me. They said it about Trump, which was the weirdest thing ever, but it was wise because that's kind of how we are as human beings. Sometimes we love people who are horrible. It's the chemicals. But track number 10, Fear Evil Like Fire. Oh, I like the vocal styling already. Can you offer she? Okay, that was Fear Evil Like Fire. And I'm not quite fully understanding what the song means, but it sounds like Eve wants to live through this person's lens of life and find heaven in the way they see things. And yeah. Because they say heaven is a place that we all have. So maybe they're continuing with this problematic partner, but trying to understand and like them and like them and love them at the same time. but let's move on. Track number 11, Purified by the Fire. Before it was fear evil like fire, but now it's purified. Really like the beat. Holy crap, that muffling sound. It's like you're covering the bottom of your phone. Or even just like covering an ear, muffling your hearing. It sounds similar to like the sounds a few seconds ago. It sounded like the Prowler theme from Into the Spider-Verse. Okay, that was Purified by the Fire, and just a fun instrumental track, I guess. Nothing much to say about it. But let's move on to track number 12, Ebony Eye. It's one that I wrote down, it'll be the concluding track to this album. Oh, they're ending it off with a bang. Like the violin. Maybe it's a keyboard. Yeah, that violin is really addicting. Definitely ending off on a high point. I think this might be one of my favorite tracks on the album. Okay, we have reached the end of the album, and I will move on to my favorite tracks and what I will rate the album. Okay, firstly, let's go over the tracks I enjoyed. So, I enjoyed Meteora Blues, track number 3, Heaven Surrounds Us Like a Hood, Operator, In Spite of War, and Ebony Eye. And as far as a rating goes, I would rate this a light 8. And I do this because I think that the production was pretty on point and consistent throughout the album. But I also think this album had a couple of skips and maybe like some misfires, but I think that I generally did enjoy the album, and I think it was worth my time and enjoyable. Let me know in the comments what tracks you enjoyed, which you didn't. Would you rate this album similar to me, different than me? And do you recommend any other of Yves' work, and thank you for watching. Maybe I'll see you next time, maybe I won't. Goodbye.